2 events and 4 races into the season, TC America, powered by Skip Barber, has arrived in the Sunshine State of Florida for the first of 2 triple-header weekends of the season. The site, Sebring International Raceway, a classic North American venue with a rich history of challenging car and driver alike. Hello and welcome to the 3rd weekend of the TC America season here at Sebring. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and out in the bright sunshine you see the grid of cars queued up, ready to go for the first of 2 races today and 3 on the weekend, Calvin. It's a real challenge anytime you come to Sebring, but this might be the story of the day. The weather, as you can see, 32 degrees Celsius. We're up over 90 degrees on the Fahrenheit scale. And with the humidity, this is, although a short race, going to be a challenging one.
Yeah, it certainly is. The temperature's been right there from the moment we walked out of the hotel room this morning. But that is Sebring. In May, you're going to get these conditions. And with these triple-header weekends, they can be a big game changer in terms of the championship. If you roll out here and have a really strong race car, you can walk away from this weekend with a bundle of points. So far this year, it's been all about Ricker Autosport. They've won 4 races on the bounce. Jeff Ricker, the team boss, won the opening rounds at Sonoma. He's looking to bounce back here this weekend. But there's an Acura on that front row that looks pretty tasty in qualifying.
Yeah, certainly so. Mike Ogren making his first start of the season, but he knows this track extremely well. He's from Florida. He's raced here at this level in the past and at lower levels in the past as well. Part of that Skip Barber racing team. Really strong for them. They've been the closest challengers to the Ricker Autosport cars through the early part of this season, but it is a driver change from what we've seen in the previous 2 rounds.
Yeah, it is, but looking at qualifying, I mean, we basically had 5 cars, just over a second separation, so I don't think Jeff Rick is going to have it all his own way, even though he had about half a second margin over the rest of the field in qualifying, but he's got such poise, so much experience now. I'm sure he's hoping to extend that win column for him here today and move a little bit further ahead of his competitors, many of whom are his teammates. PJ Gronke will be right behind him on the inside lane there down into turn 1. So got to play nice together, but as you said, it's really hot track conditions in this racetrack. About 3 3/4 miles, it is super challenging. I believe it's got a couple of the corners that would rate in my top 5 of the hardest that you compete on in North America. And all starts down into turn 1 and obviously the finishing corner, Sunset Bend, turn 17.
Let's talk about this venue. Like you said, just over 3.7 miles in length, 7 turns around, opened up back in 1950. This, of course, was the site of Hendricks Army Airfield, a training base for the U.S. Army Air Corps from 1941 to 1946. A lot of B-17 pilots got their wings right here in Sebring, and this airfield was identified by Alec Ullman as a site to host endurance racing, wanting to create something akin to the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but here in the United States. And what a classic it has turned into in the subsequent years.
It really has, with the 12 hours here being in May, such tradition, such history. So many manufacturers have won here over the years. It's a big event to win, but it's great for SRO to visit this venue on a regular basis, admittedly a couple of months later, so that creates some new challenges. The race surface is legendary. Respect the bumps. As you said, a lot of it still remains. I think about just under 3 miles of it is concrete and about just under a mile of asphalt through the new loop. But, you know, it's got some great corners. You can go side by side, particularly in this TC class, around the majority of this race circuit. Some big braking opportunities into some heavy brake zones, like down into turn 7. So it's going to be a fun afternoon to see these cars competing here once again.
Well, Calvin knows what he's talking about when it comes to this racetrack. You're a former class winner at the 12 Hours of Sebring.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be part of the Jack Roush team, running a Cougar Whistler liveried car back in 1990, and teamed up with Robbie Gordon and Lynn St. James to win that race. And certainly it was a great year. We started the year with a bang, winning at Daytona, and then following up with the win here at Sebring. I wasn't doing the full championship, just doing the Enduro, so 2 for 2 was a nice way to go, but it was frustrating not to compete in the rest of the championship that year.
I'm sure it was. Was this a place, though, that you immediately clicked with, or is this a place that you had to learn over time?
I think I never learned it to how you really feel like when you've got a racetrack down. I feel at turn 17, I never did the same 2 laps consecutively because of the bumps. You're always kind of feeling your way through there because the car's moving around so much. It's hard to trust that you're on exactly the right line. I'm sure if you get more and more laps and start to hone in a little bit, and the track has changed a little bit. But the great thing about it is they don't do any major revisions. The surface is the surface. That's the character. That's the backbone of Sebring, and that's what you either learn to love it and embrace it, or you hate it. And I think if you're going to return it, you've got to somehow figure a way to get around this racetrack and enjoy it.
Well, you've told that story about never doing turn 17 the same way twice before, and I take a lot of solace in that when I'm hacking it on the sim and, you know, sending it off into the outskirts of the track through turn 17. If Calvin struggles with it, then I surely can be excused.
Yeah, I think all drivers do. We were out there this morning with Jan Halen doing a track preview for this races coming this weekend, and he said the same thing, but he's had a lot of success here. So I think when you run it repeatedly and you do a lot of testing here, I didn't do a ton of testing here. It was really just the race weekend, so you always got competitors around you. But if you can do a bundle of testing, maybe you can figure out and find out where you need to be and where you should not be, and where you could end up if you do end up on one of the big bumps in the wrong way.
Cars starting to roll out on the track as we get ready to go for the first of 3 races here this weekend. It is a shorter format this year, just the 25-minute races. I would say that maybe sentiment was split on whether or not folks like these shorter, sharper races or the 40-minute races we've seen in years past. But on a weekend like this, with the weather this hot, I suspect it's a pretty popular choice.
Yeah, you certainly needed to be in the gym and do some serious training to be ready for this one. The problem you have with a 25-minute race, should there be a full course yellow, obviously it eats up a lot of that clock. So I think that's the main concern and the compromise, but nonetheless 3 starts here this weekend.
Starting grid, it is Jeff Ricka, the points leader, on pole position alongside the debutant Mike Ogren. PJ Gronke from Canada, he loves the heat despite the fact he's from the Great White North. He'll start alongside CJ Sepulveda, making his first start since the second race of the year in Sonoma. Eric Coons is back with Rika Autosport, as is Connor Attrell. They'll start in row number 3. Then in the 4th row, it's Jonathan Newdorf, another Canadian, will start next to James Klimas from the Skip Barber Racing Stable, and Antonio Constantino from JMF Motorsports, with those Toyota Corollas that are still working their way into the window. Remember, this is very much a development project for Toyota. Brand new car here this year, and they're making gains. We saw that certainly from round 1 to round 2, going from Sonoma to Circuit of the Americas. But this is a whole new challenge, whether we're talking about the heat or the bumps of Sebring.
It is, and what we've seen from the car so far is a really stable platform. It seems to handle really well. It seems to be a little bit down on top speed and horsepower. We did think they were going to have an upgrade available here for this Sebring weekend. Talking to some people in the paddock, not directly, but I think this is accurate information. I think they tested with that and it didn't quite work out with the increased turbo settings and stuff. So they're pretty much running the cars as we saw them at Sonoma and at Coda. So got a lot of long straightaways here coming out through this final corner at the back straightaway, the Almond Straight. It's a bit of a dyno run, so they may struggle there a little bit compared to some of the other manufacturers out there today.
But again, a work in progress, and that's why you go racing, right? To work on your product, develop that package, and Toyota has a lot of resources behind motorsports generally, but this program in particular, they think this is a valuable step on their motorsports ladder.
Yeah, I think that's the constant message from everyone involved with that, is that Toyota are fully behind this program and they want to make it work, and they're doing everything in their capabilities to see that happen as soon as possible. Once you get into the racing season stuff, it's tough to make big jumps.
Toyota starting out back, but on the front row, we've got a Hyundai as well as an Acura. As the safety car starts to accelerate away, this is that ultra challenging turn 17. They'll go under the bridge and approach the VP acceleration zone. Roval pole position winner Jeff Ricka has the field in tow. He'll start to the left-hand side of the front straightaway from a driver's perspective, right-hand side of the screen. There's the green flag. Race 1 of 3 this weekend underway at Sebring International Raceway. Jeff Ricka able to take the lead from pole position, but keep an eye on Ogren, the local. He knows this track well, coming under a little bit of pressure from one of the Hyundais. Quickly single file through that tricky turn number 1, and immediately now starting to fan out further back in the fight for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of the Ricka Autosport Hyundais there mid-pack are trying to go side by side there through turn 3, which is also known as Christensen Corner, named after the legend Tom Christensen. So much success here during his Audi days, of course. Someone's off and on there in the backdrop coming through turn 5.
A little bit of dust up in the air. Looks like it is one of the Corollas.
Maybe Newdorf.
Yep, could have been from the JMF stable. Costantino as well. Oh, a little lunge there. That is for third.
Sepulveda there, peeking down at the inside of PJ Gronke into that turn 7 brake zone. With the heat of the day, I don't think it's going to take many corners to get these Pirellis up to pressure and up to temperature. But so far, Jeff Ricker, our championship leader, nice start here on the opening lap.
Exactly what he wanted to see. Tough for him a little bit. He brings in the big gun right from Korea in the previous round. Korean touring car champion Yumin Kim, who turns up and really showcased his skill, winning both races from pole position at Circuit of the Americas. That put Jeff a bit on the back foot. He still was able to finish second in both of those races, and knowing Yumin was not running the full season, it still allowed Jeff to build his points lead, but I'm sure he's keen to get back in victory lane.
Yeah, Kim was so impressive showing up to Circuit of the Americas for the very first time. He's a big sim racer, of course, so I think he'd pounded thousands of laps there to know the line around the race circuit, but with the elevation change when you get to the circuit, in reality, it's a little bit different learning curve, but he did a great job. There's some good battles between those two, and looked pretty tight at times, but Kim came through to sweep the weekend.
Super impressive debut. No planned further outings for him, but we hope that changes because he was a breath of fresh air. Really impressive young man off and on the racetrack. The battles here between the Hyundai teammates. Gronke holds down the third spot. Sepulveda, Atrell, and Koons all running nose to tail effectively, fighting for positions a little bit further back and ahead of the Toyotas. This is third and fourth right there that we just took a peek at. Gronke has it. Sepulveda wants to take it away.
Yeah, sort of like similar cut and paste in terms of the margins that we saw in qualifying here earlier today. Jeff Ricker seems to have the edge over everyone and has extended that lead over Mike Ogren there aboard the Acura, but behind them it's a big battle there. Sepulveda, I think, is getting really squirrely there, under braking into turn 3.
PJ saw him coming, gave him plenty of room there. That's allowed Ogren to scoot away and hang on to that second spot in the Acura. Gronke, as you can see, as ever, that car festooned with sponsorship stickers. He puts together quite an impressive package of little sponsors to help him go racing each and every year. Got a lot of help as well from Hyundai and from Rica Autosports to put this program together for 2025.
Yeah, PJ's such a great personality and wonderful to represent all of the partners that he has on board. And he's not shy in telling you that Hyundai had a lot to do with him being able to put this program together with Jeff Ricker pretty late in the off-season. It was only, I think, 3 or 4 weeks out as we see two of the Ricker Autosports cars. That's Sepulveda there down at the inside of Atrell, I think it is. That's turn 10. That's Cunningham Corner. Beautiful rhythm through these next couple of switchbacks here, and then you're back onto the brake pedal for turn 13. This is Tower we're coming into right here.
Atrell had been the aggressor. Now he finds himself playing some defense as Koons closes in. And behind, look at how hard these Toyotas are pushing. When you're down on power, you've got to maximize the corner speed as best as you can. And that means taking some risks from time to time.
It does, and I think they got a couple of young drivers there who are super talented, and it's frustrating to see the other brands at the moment having a little bit of an edge on you in terms of lap time and straightaway speed. But sometimes you're digging deep on these cars, and when you get the horsepower underneath you as well, you've really developed these cars to the max, and that may come back to really give them some rewards a bit later in this season or maybe for 2026.
Strong run from James Klimas. I know just down in 8th right now, and he has 3 previous finishes of 8th this season, and those are his best of the campaign. But this is really the first time we've seen him truly in the fight, and he is right there with the 2 JMF cars sandwiched in between Costantino and Newdorf at the back of this pack as those Toyotas continue in this development season. Already 5 minutes gone by, and that's to your point earlier, Calvin, about how quickly these 25 minutes can get away from you, especially if there were to be any interruptions.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we can keep it clean. We've had pretty good history so far this year with the TC races being excellent and clean, lots of green flag racing. So hats off to the race director, John Fergus, in terms of directing a lot of these young Chargers who are anxious and want to take a bit of risk. Now we see the number 75 and 74 Sepulveda there dropping back behind Atrell as he came through turn 5. I'm not sure if he dropped some wheels there. It's a tricky corner. you almost feel like you want to chase the race car a little bit more, and when you do so, you end up washing out wide through there and can get up on that curbing on the exit.
This is turn 7, the hairpin, great passing opportunity. Sepulveda so excited to get this chance when he went to race at Sonoma earlier this year. There were no promises of anything beyond that, and I know he was super keen to get this chance to come and rejoin Ricca Autosport a little bit closer to home for CJ, who hails from Puerto Rico. It's quite a trip out to Sonoma to make his pro racing debut. Much closer to home, of course, here in Florida. This is what happened a moment ago that cost CJ that 4th spot. Did get a little wide, dropped a wheel, and you could see how quickly that left him vulnerable. Momentum in these cars so important.
Yeah, it looked like he might have overcharged turn 4 a little bit and ended up with a little bit offline and a little wide there through him. Maybe just chased the front end too much, picked up some understeer, and then got up on that curb. And it's hard to control it at that point. It really just dances you up on kind of a beam there with the curbing, how it's laid out in that particular corner.
CJ mentored, as so many young Puerto Rican drivers have been in recent years, by Victor Gonzalez, helping to bring Puerto Rican talent to the U.S. And for CJ, this is the culmination of a lifelong dream. Grew up around the racing scene in Puerto Rico. His father a racing mechanic, and he always dreamed of getting a chance to race at this level. Yeah,
certainly a great story. And you could see there were some of the cars there not running to run line astern. Typically down the straightaways, you're trying to pick up the draft effect, but I think getting air to the front end of these race cars is super important. I mean, essentially, these are production-based cars, and a lot of cars have some thresholds built in, and you hate to go into that safety mode where you're going to kill a little bit of horsepower and richen the motors up, or whatever the case may be, if you suddenly get beyond with what the parameters are set with. So just got to be thinking about clean air, and that's what Jeff Ricca has got right now up front. Ogren's about 2.5 seconds back, and PJ settled down really nicely. I think one of the things PJ Gronke is trying to work on is not overdriving the race car. Looked like he's in a battle there, probably was doing that. Now he's settled into about 2-second gap himself back to a trail. PJ looking for his 2nd podium of the season. He's been a fixture in that 3rd, 4th range to this point in the year, and I know it's eating at him a little bit. He wants to get up there and mix it up for the race win, which he did quite regularly last year en route to the TCA Class Championship. Of course, a former TCB champion too, but this is a new era of TC America, Cal. Gone are the different classes, everybody converging kind of somewhere in the middle, right? And we're all running together now in just this combined TC format. Yeah, I think the future is bright. I think there's a lot of manufacturer interest. BMW are going to be here with a new car for next year. Certainly Toyota are developing that Corolla that we have in the race here today. So Hyundai are certainly the benchmark team right now. They've sort of dominated things in the early part of the season, which is probably to be expected, but I think they know that their reign at the top is not going to last forever. And even today, we can see the Acura of Ogren is keeping Jeff Ricca, our championship leader, in touch at least.
Doing a great job. We've seen Mike pop in and out of TC America sporadically over the last few years. Club racer of some renown as well. Had a run to 5th in the SCCA runoffs at VIR a couple of years back, driving a Volkswagen Scirocco, car that you've had in your possession, at least briefly, earlier in your life, right?
I had a couple of them, briefly. Yeah, well, back when I raced Formula 3 in the UK, I ran with Volkswagen racing engines, and they used to provide me with a street car, Volkswagen Scirocco GTI, and we were actually down in Monaco, not on vacation, trying to qualify for the F3 race. Had a bad weekend. I crashed in second qualifying. Every year the times, or historically the times improve on day 2, so missed the race. There were 40 cars trying to qualify for 20 spots. And then had my Scirocco stolen from outside the hotel, with my briefcase, passports, helmets, racing, and everything else. And then they kindly gave me another one. I'd owned it 2 weeks, and someone ran into it on the side of the street, parked at my girlfriend's house at the time. So didn't have a great history with the Siroccos. They weren't happy with me.
Mike Ogren, a lot happier with his run in the Scirocco.
He's taking care of his a little bit better than I did.
In that run to 5th in the runoffs. Just a moment ago, we saw Klimas losing that spot to Neudorf. That's been a battle that had been brewing for the first 10 minutes or so of this race. Neudorf able to put the move on. Jonathan, one of a couple of drivers that are pulling double duty here this weekend. So managing heat exhaustion, things of that nature will be a big part of his story. Just a little bit wide there from Neudorf. That opens the door up. Excuse me, from Klimas, and then Neudorf needed no second invitation. Yeah,
just overcharged the entry there to Christensen corner. So, yeah, you just got to be patient. I mean, particularly that sector of the racetrack, it really kind of tempts you into pushing the car a little bit more. But on a hot day like this, it's so easy to overdrive it and lose the front end and run a little bit wide. And with a competitor like Neudorf, he's going to pounce immediately when you open up the door like that.
He's been really impressive, I feel like, over the last couple of years. We've mostly seen Jonathan in GT4 cars, but he's been quickly on the pace and then doing double duty, as we talked about, between GT4 America and here in TC America. Back to the front of the field where Jeff Rica continues to show the way. Lead now 3.1 seconds, at least it was the last time around, and it looks like it might be opening up just a little bit more as we approach the halfway mark.
Yeah, and he set the fastest lap of the race so far today at 2:21.9. Ogren is about 7/10 off of that number. The importance of that is, of course, that the grid for race 2 later today is set by these fast race laps in race 1, and then consequently race 2 fast laps will set the grid for tomorrow in race 3 of the weekend.
Drop back to this group. We saw Gronke and Atrell come through. Sepulveda and Kuhn still locked in a struggle. That is the fight for 5th and 6th. Eric made his season debut at Circuit of the Americas. Finished 10th, well, really didn't finish actually, but credited with a 10th place result in race 1, no fault of his own. Bounced back on a strong run to 6th in race number 2. Good to have the Orangeville, Ontario native back for the 2nd straight race weekend as part of the Gin Racer Rica Autosport stable.
Yeah, they've certainly stacked the deck this year with, you got experience obviously with Jeff Rica, PJ making the move up, and I think PJ's going to come on strong. I think when we get to the mid part of this season, he's going to really get to understand that platform a little bit better and what it takes to get the most out of it. So it's an exciting season. I mean, Jeff Rick has done a great job of attracting, a strong program there. The car's well proven, and he's one of those teams that really runs everything as tight as he can. So he tries to put out budgets that are attainable for the guys and girls that are running with him over the years. So he does a lot. I mean, it was a little team, but now it's become a very big team with 5 cars entered in this race alone.
Apologies to our 2nd place driver, Mike Ogren is closer to the correct pronunciation, I'm told. Haven't had the chance to meet Mike before and ask him that question. But we will adjust accordingly moving forward. Doing a nice job today. As mentioned, has done some sporadic races at this level, and also heavily involved with Skip Barber as an instructor at the racing school, but also race director for their Formula 4 racing series that over the years, through various guises, has helped to promote a lot of talent into sports car racing, single-seater racing, and the likes of Ryan Hunter-Reay and Juan Montoya and so many others came through first the Skip Barber School and then the Skip Barber Racing Series. And under new ownership in the last half-decade or so, that pipeline is opened back up again.
I think Max Verstappen, didn't he do a winter series here one year here at Sebring?
Yes.
So it doesn't get much stronger than that as a kind of a testament to sort of talent that can come through their ranks. But yeah, they're certainly the biggest and the strongest organization that still continue to run on a consistent basis at a number of racetracks around the US. And they continue to build, got some great facilities now over at VIR, for example. Huge shop that they just opened probably a year or 2 ago now.
Evidently, he was one of our Amanda Busick's instructors when she went through the Skip Barber School.
Wow.
A couple of years ago.
Well, I'll tell you what, Amanda can pedal it. She's pretty impressive in a rental car.
Yes. that has been proven on several occasions. If we need to get to the airport or to the racetrack and we're running a little behind, we know who to plug in.
Very calm behind the wheel as well.
Just what you'd want to see. Good coaching from Mike, evidently. 2 members of this broadcast are Skip Barber School alums. I went through it in 2011, I believe.
Oh, cool. Which track?
Audubon Country Club,
Yep.
just outside of Chicago. Joliet, Illinois.
It's a cool spot. Did a nice job with that facility.
Yeah, very much so. Into the final 9 minutes of our race here at Sebring.
Gronke is suddenly feeling the heat here a little bit. You talked about him on more podiums this year on a regular basis. Well, he's going to have to dig deep here a little bit because Atrella's really close, is putting together a nice string of laps here to close in on that 3rd position potential for the podium.
Connor made his debut at Circuit of the Americas as well. Finishes of 6th and 5th in those 2 races. 3rd generation racing driver, Connor Atrell. And that family has a great connection to the Hyundai brand. They own multiple Hyundai dealerships up in Canada. Shows they believe in the product when they go out and race it as well on the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. That's a match made in heaven. And right now, Connor's really carrying some speed there through 2 and 1. Looks like he closed on a little bit closer to PJ as they get to this very tight section. This where it really takes a lot of discipline not to overdrive these cars through this sector here, particularly this one. You want to roll good minimum speed and just pick up the throttle nice and gradually. You don't want to stop and start the car again, but you just got to be careful. If otherwise you're just at the wrong trajectory to the line coming through there. And if you do dance the car up on top of that curbing, it's hard to get it back.
That was turn 6, also known as Big Bend, down to the hairpin. Gronke comfortable enough with his advantage not to have to defend.
But Trell is close enough where with some of these big wide break zones that you have, like into this corner we're in right now, as we see Ogren go through there, like in there, you can come from a long way back. So I wonder what Trell has got up his sleeve here with time running out, just 7 minutes remaining. Does he try and make a bold move into one of these break zones?
Wouldn't put it past him. That podium is
it's a big difference. Yeah,
awfully tempting prize. And it's not too far away. You can see it. But it's going to be difficult to get by a veteran like PJ Gronke, who has the experience here at Sebring and just so many years of being in this position that he could draw upon, racing at a fairly high level in touring cars.
Ooh, a little wobble there by PJ under braking there. Turn 15, so he's just got to keep it nice and clean. As you said, he's got the experience here, but he can't let those cars that he sees in his rearview mirror psych him out at all. Just got to keep making sure he keeps those front tires underneath him.
PJ won race 1 from pole here at Sebring a year ago. Had to settle for 2nd, though, in race 2. Alex Garcia headed him. We've seen Alex's brother, Michael, in the championship this year.
Look at the different lines that everyone's adopting there through turn 17, just trying to figure out the best solution to that.
Is that about trying to avoid a certain bump or just looking for some grip, avoiding marbles? What are they thinking about?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, obviously the line moves a little bit in the heat of the day, but also the big thing through 17 is the bumps. And you can be a little bit more conservative and kind of hug around the inside. It's not quite as bumpy there. Obviously, you're running on a tighter radius, so that compromises the speed that you can lay on top of that to a certain degree. But yeah, just finding something that's consistent was really the key factor that I struggle with in terms of hitting that corner the same. Recognizing, like, some people, there's a big blue dot up under the bridge, for example. Do you center the car over that or position it relative to that, just to make sure you're in the same spot? You're moving around so much, it's hard to think, am I exactly where I need to be? And I always felt, as I said earlier in the show, I was always feeling the car through the corner in terms of when I can commit back to throttle through there and get good exit speed down the front stretch.
Well, Gronke was feeling the heat that time. Atrell took a half-hearted peek to the inside, but didn't make a true lunge. And just behind, you also saw Eric Coons closing in on CJ Sepulveda. CJ looking like he's under some pressure here as well. All of these are teammates, let's not forget.
Yeah, they're all having lunch together after this race, I'm sure, and getting ready for race 2 later in the day. So it can make for some interesting dynamics if you have any argy-bargy out on the racetrack.
Just over 4 minutes to go. Rica continues to lead. It's only 4.2 seconds, though, over Mike Ogren.
Trell is really feeling he has something here for that final podium position, I think. Maybe learning a little bit from PJ as well, with certain corners around the racetrack where PJ may be a little bit better, and then he's charging hard into some of these corners where there is some opportunity. It's a great thing about Sebring. The racetrack is pretty wide around the majority of it to make some moves.
Interesting to note, it's the fastest lap of this race that sets the grid for race number 2 later on today. And Gronke does have the 3rd fastest race lap, so he would line up 3rd, but it's Coons actually, and not by much, that has the next fastest lap of this group. And so that would see him jump ahead of Trell and Sepulveda, assuming nothing changes here on the starting grid for the 2nd race. You get the sense there's not much between these 4, and track position could be crucial in terms of dictating the outcome.
Yeah, and just looking at Gronke and Trell's pace, I mean, they both ran 2:23.9s on that last lap compared to 2:23.6 for our leader, Jeff Ricker. So I'm sure Jeff is in somewhat of a management mode, running out front with a solid almost 4-second lead right now. But these guys are pushing each other hard. It seems like they've now gapped Sepulveda and Coons, so I think it's just going to be between these 2 for that final podium position, unless they get into it together and open up the door for someone to slide through unexpectedly.
Sepulveda under attack this time. Here comes Coons to the outside, actually able to draw alongside temporarily. Now crossing over, looking to put the power down out of turn 7. This is the run through 8 and 9, or Fangio as it's known, up to turn 10. Possible passing opportunity there. Look at this second duo of cars, and again Sepulveda forced to go on the defensive. That car just doesn't look happy under braking. We've seen it squirm around several times in this race.
Yeah, it's really wagging its tail when he really goes in deep on the brakes to try and protect that position, and you can see the rear's kind of dancing on him a little bit, so it's not ideal. So I think he needs to try and develop a little bit maybe longer, softer brake application. I think he's trying to take it in as deep as he can so he can't be out braked, but I think that's giving him some balance issues when he gets to the entry of the corner by doing that.
Here they come, fighting over 5th and 6th. Sepulveda had a really good outing at Sonoma. Podiums in both races. Runner-up, in fact, in the 2nd race. But he's been out of the car since that season opener back in March.
See there, he just wanted to get the clean air, so he must be looking at the temperature gauge and recognizing PJ's just going to sweep across here. You almost apex right at the end of that concrete as the white flag flies for the leaders.
1 lap to go in race 1 of 3 this weekend. Rica's lead now 4 seconds over Mike Ogren, but the battle is on behind. PJ Gronke has the final spot of the podium, at least for now. A trail right there on his tire tracks, and then Sepulveda and Coons also fighting for 5th and 6th. Still a lot to be determined here on this final 3.7-mile tour of Sebring International Raceway.
Yeah, there really is. These 2 are literally matched, almost identical lap times here, as you would expect, running nose to tail, of course. So it makes you wonder whether Trell might have a little bit more pace if he could get some clean air on the front of his race car. But Gronke's actually made a really good job through that sector there and has gapped him a little bit. That'll take the pressure off when he gets down to that brake zone for turn 7.
Gap starting to grow enough now where PJ Gronke shouldn't have to play too much defense. Sepulveda in no man's land, sitting in the middle of the road, now covers off the inside, turns in very early and very deep. Can the 77 of Coons take advantage? Yeah,
Coons kind of fainted there, and Sepulveda covered it immediately, but was a little bit offline, very shallow on the entry there. Took a lot of entry speed on a straight line, not an ideal exit, as we see Trell here really heaping the pressure on him in the backdrop. Here comes Coons down to the inside.
4 Rica Autosport teammates scrapping for position here on the final lap in race 1 of the weekend at Sebring. Look up the inside there from Trell. Couldn't get alongside PJ Gronke, but looks like he's got pace in hand. Can he make the move? What is left as an option to him? What are the remaining passing zones
Well,
here
you
this
try and
lap?
send it right here as you sweep through this left hand into the right hander there, right there. But I think PJ's already established a couple of car lengths gap once again, so that takes away that opportunity. PJ's done a really nice job as maintaining his poise here. Just needs a good clean run on the back straightaway, and he should be able to secure that third position.
But at the front of the field, it's Jeff Ricca, the team boss, who has not been challenged, secured pole position by a fairly healthy margin, and has led every single lap. He was runner-up in both races at Circuit of the Americas, but Jeff Ricca returns to victory lane, winning race 1 at Sebring International Raceway. Mike Ogren, second place in his debut in the championship for the season, and PJ Gronke will hang on to take the final step of the podium ahead of his teammate Connor Attrell. Through in 5th is CJ Sepulveda, and Coons a little off the pace there in the final sector, does come across the line to take 6th position. Antonio Costantino now in the first of the Corollas was able to build a gap over his teammate Jonathan Neudorf of just a couple of seconds, and he'll see the checkered flag ahead of Neudorf. And James Klimas still very much in the shot. His most competitive outing, I think, of the season so far. Sees the checkered flag and will finish in 9th.
That was an entertaining race. Lots of little battles going on. Not so much for our leader. He kind of got the jump at the start and had that kind of 6, 7 tenth margin in qualifying. Used that to his, best interest there at the beginning. Established the gap, and I'm sure it's just all about time management at that point forward. But Ogren really did have a nice run here in the Acura. But his fastest lap was similar to the qualifying spread of about 6, 7 tenths back of Ricca.
Well, they'll share the front row for race 2 later on this evening. Gronke will line up in 3rd, but it does look like Coons, by just a fraction, has the 4th fastest time and will start on the outside of the 2nd row. Then it will be Sepulveda and Attrell, despite the fact that he was right there on Gronke's tail going for the podium here in race 1. He'll have to come from 6th on the grid in race 2.
I think you need good messaging communication with your crew guys and girls to really understand that fast lap thing, because it can be so pivotal for the next race. So, if you feel you got more pace, maybe give up going for that position and just gap someone and take a run at them and just see if you can lay down that slightly faster race lap to give you that track position for tomorrow or later today, as the case may be.
Yeah, tough to do when you're fighting for a podium. I certainly understand the motivation for Attrell to continue that fight for Gronke, but it will cost him, in theory at least, some track position. If we look at the results, the entire field covered by 46 seconds at the end of 25 minutes, and the Hyundais plus the Integra that's mixed up in there, just 20 seconds separating them at the end of this race. Ricca and Ogren, 3.8 seconds between them. And Gronke had to fight for it, but he does get his 2nd podium of the season. Yeah,
he'll have a big smile on his face for that one, so it was a nice solid run for him, and again, he's still learning this platform, how to maximize it, but he's got a great teammate in Jeff Ricca, who certainly understands the car very well. They can look at data after this first round and see if he can make some subtle adjustments for race 2 later today.
Attrell, Sepulveda, Coons also still learning their cars after making sporadic appearances earlier this year. And again, out back the Corollas, but still very early in that car's development. They'll get stronger and stronger as the year progresses, as Toyota continues to tweak that car and bring it closer to the performance window envisioned by the rules makers for TC America, powered by AWS. Powered by Skip Barber, excuse me.
See kind of the heat haze as we look at some highlights from today's race.
Yeah, it all started with Jeff Ricca on the pole position, was able to accelerate away and take that lead. Really was not threatened too much, but Mike Ogren did a great job in his first race of the season to keep him honest. Moment there cost CJ Sepulveda some ground, dropped that wheel and dropped a position as a consequence. Good battle as well between Neudorf and Klimas for the majority of the race. Neudorf ultimately came out on top, able to make that pass just past the halfway mark. Good battles, though, for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. They were all running nose to tail for a good chunk of this race. Gronke at times looked vulnerable, but ultimately did not provide Connor Wittrell the opportunity to get by, despite everything that Connor threw at him. So quite a bit of his arsenal at his disposal over the course of this race. Sepulveda definitely under threat as well. Had to cover off that lunge from Eric Coons and was able to hang on to that position. At the front, Jeff Rica led home. Mike Ogren, PJ Gronke rounded out the podium in race one of the weekend at Sebring.